Welcome to Ufahamu Africa, a podcast about life and politics on the African continent. I'm Kimmy Dion, your host, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Rachel Beatty-Riedel. Hi, Rachel. How are you?
Good, Kim. I'm so glad to be here with you, my lovely friend and podcast co-host. Um, so this week we have a really wonderful episode by our non-resident fellows, Asiedu and Tamakloe. They discuss anti-LGBT bill in Ghana, which they provide some background on the bill and the politics surrounding it, and convene a roundtable conversation of Ghanaians discussing the realities of everyday life under this bill.
This is a really important episode, and we're grateful to Fu and Ami for giving a fuller sense than what our listeners might glean from international media headlines. As some of you might know, the anti-LGBT bill passed in February, but since May, it's been under review in the courts. We'll continue to follow the court's rulings and keep our listeners up to date. I'll also encourage our followers to listen to an earlier episode, episode 55, when I interviewed University of Cincinnati professor Ashley Currier about her book, Politicizing Sex in Contemporary Africa. She talks at length about her research on political homophobia, focusing in particular on Malawi, but also just giving a broader sense of like why these kinds of issues lead to legislation, right? Like something that you don't think that you need legislation about, but it's because of politics, right? There's something to be gained by people who are trying to keep or ascend to power.
Absolutely, Kim. And it's striking that this bill in Ghana passed just after yet another bill in Uganda, and the ways in which this, is signals particular types of mobilization by politicians. And so a really interesting episode. We're so grateful, as you said, to Ami and Fu for this, and grateful to be able to have them based in Ghana and bringing us real kind of everyday realities, as well as the haute politique level of analysis, what it means to folks who live in Ghana. So another really important story this week that has been unfolding before our eyes, and we've been learning a lot from our friends and colleagues who are based in Kenya, is around the very controversial finance bill. Now, this week, Wednesday, President William Ruto announced, in fact, that he was withdrawing the government's controversial finance bill in response to these incredible protests and mobilizations of citizens against the bill, and some very tragic deaths that occurred where police were meting out violence to those protesters who were exercising their civic right to hold the government accountable. So I wanted to just share with our listeners some really excellent takeaways from Kathleen Klaus's article in The Conversation that lays out, what's behind the protest, what's behind the finance bill, and what's been happening in Kenya. So she suggests that there are really four key issues driving the protests and general opposition to this finance bill, part of the national budget for 2024. And the first is, yes, we know that there are often protests about rising prices, that's around the world an issue that drives protest and mobilization, the cost of bread, the cost of basic essentials. But this finance bill went above and beyond raising prices because it was a series of taxes that were viewed as highly regressive. Being taxed matters, but what is taxed matters more, right? Both symbolically and in terms of material consequences for everybody's pocketbook. Now, the proposed taxes in this bill would have affected every level of society, but they would have been most keenly felt by the poor and working class because they were taxing everything from income tax to fuel to essential items, foodstuffs, healthcare costs. Digital content creators would also have been negatively affected. So there you've got, your podcasters and social media folks out helping to drive protest against it. And, these taxes really demonstrated, I think, for many people, what they saw as the Kenyan elites, the political elites' indifference towards the ability of citizens to live a dignified life. Right. Now, the second major issue driving the protests was around the way in which this tax was justified as a way to pay down the national debt, which currently stands at 68% of GDP. So one might argue, in terms of political economy, that's a good thing, pay down the debt. But for many Kenyans, addressing this deficit hinges not on taxation of basic foodstuffs, but addressing rampant corruption that they see at every level of government, what they see as financial mismanagement, and lavish consumption amongst the political elites. Most specifically, many were focused on Ruto's kind of extravagant spending habits, hosting, extravagant dinners and private jets and all of that and beyond. Thirdly, many Kenyans felt that the finance bill didn't recognize really the economic precarity, the uncertainty, the everyday struggle, the poverty that many people experience, and especially Ruto supporters, because Ruto's 2022 election campaigns were an appeal to the poor as well as promises of progressive taxation. So this builds on a long-standing frustration with the mismanagement of public funds and the feeling that Kenyans need to be able to hold their leaders accountable. And then finally, the protests grew and began to take on different narratives as the government, and particularly the police force, had this brutal crackdown, this really, terrible repression against the uprising itself. So the resolve of many protesters, the number of protesters deepened as the police and the military, became more violent, shooting live bullets and tear gas into the crowd. At least 13 people are reported to have been killed. Now, Kim, you saw news about this from one of our former guests on the pod, right?
Right. So whenever I want to understand anything that's happening in Kenya, the first thing I do is open Angela Nyabula's Twitter feed, because she's just got a really keen sense of what's happening, like a sharp analytical take on what's happening in Kenya, and you know, she's also, she's so tapped in to the social media networks in Kenya as well that I can trust what comes across her Twitter feed, right? So, we'll just encourage our listeners to when you're in doubt about, whether something is real that's happening in Kenya, like something you saw on the internet, when in doubt, go check out, twitter.com/Nangela1. And one thing she retweeted yesterday, I saw, or quote tweeted, was there was someone in Kenya who was curating a list of those who had been killed in the repression against protest participants. And it's really heartbreaking because you're seeing young people, right? Pictures of smiling young people that are confirmed to have died protesting, fighting for a better future for themselves and their compatriots. And it's really quite sad. And um, I'm thinking a lot of things about this protest. The first thing that came to mind was, how this continues a very long tradition of Kenyans taking to the streets to oppose policies and politics they disagree with, right? This goes back to the colonial period. I'm thinking about, for example, Ngugi wa Thiong'o's work, when he writes about, in his prison memoir, when he writes about, what it was like, in the colonial period, and then how in the immediate post-colonial moment, the government just acted like the colonizers did, in terms of violence and repression. you know, um, of course, he was a political prisoner in Kenya for a time, and you know, it's interesting, right? We're in 2024 and we're still seeing these echoes of um, you know, violence and repression of one's own people who are simply asking for different policies, right? Or challenging the policies that you're bringing in. And it's, and other things I'm thinking about is like Lisa Mueller's book about contemporary political protest in Africa and how a lot of it is driven, what she calls the foot soldiers of the revolution. The reason why they're taking to the streets is literally because of their drive to meet their basic needs, right? the economy is not working for them. And these choices that government is making, it just seems so, I'm puzzled why lawmakers, Ruto included, why they think it's possible for them to introduce bills like this. Like, what is their miscalculation? Because obviously now Ruto has pulled the bill,
Mhm.
right? So clearly he knows there was a miscalculation, right? Oh, okay, it doesn't work.
Mhm.
Which I appreciate that, to digging in the heels and pulling out tanks or these, helicopters that the US government is going to be funding to Kenya after Ruto's visit to the United States. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that, there's not going to be um an even harder crackdown.
Mhm.
So there's some learning there, but I'm puzzled by the miscalculation. How did he not know, right? This self-described man of the people, right? How did he
Exactly.
not, like, what is the decision calculus here?
Exactly. I totally agree, Kim. And it's interesting because, you know, the the protests themselves and the withdrawal of the bill, even if temporary, but I think it would be very difficult to bring this back in the current form.
Yeah.
Um, it does send some very powerful signals, and the signals that it sends are based on the willingness of brave citizens to say this government policy does not work for us and we deserve a better future, right? And in many ways, it definitely signals the anger against the impunity of the police. It definitely signals an intolerance of corruption, and it signals that the fiscal issues of the Kenyan state cannot be resolved on the backs of the poor.
Facts.
That's not going to work both to the domestic government policymakers as well as to international lenders who have financed this debt. So I think it's a very powerful moment and an emboldened civil society, one that, as you mentioned, has strong roots in Kenya to push for, greater transparency and accountability from their leaders. It's a powerful lesson for us all.
Agreed. I mean, those of us who are living in places where, democracy is under threat, I learned this from working with you on, the Malawi case, right? For this broader project you have about resisting democratic backsliding. Um, you know, I can't, I can't say it enough. It's everyday people taking to the streets. That is democracy.
Mhm.
And it's not the elections you hold every 4 or 5 years, right? And I get that from listening to Zachariah Montpilly's TED Talk about protest democracy and what we can learn from Africa, and Africans about protecting our rights to self-govern. And you know, right now, Malawi's coming up on its anniversary, right? It's um 2024 is 60 years of democracy, of quote, the end. I don't know, want to call it democracy, but the end of colonialism, right? Independence in Malawi. And I've been thinking a lot about, like, what have those 60 years taught us? Like, um, what did we learn from those 60 years? And there's a lot, I think, in the last, 20 or 30 that can really teach us a lot about democracy and um, how people are trying to get and keep a democracy. But just talking about Malawi, I do want to bring up that this past week, they inaugurated a new vice president, Michael Usi. As our listeners may already know, Malawi's previous vice president, Salish Chilima, along with 9 other people, tragically died in a plane crash. The party was traveling from the capital city of Lilongwe to the northern city of Mzuzu to attend the funeral of former attorney Ralph Kasambara himself. Before he died, he was also a controversial figure, had challenged the previous autocratizing president Bingu wa Mutharika and had his home and offices petrol bombed. Um, there's something about, not that Kasambara doesn't have his flaws, all your faves are problematic, but, um, you know, but, he was in his own ways and at his own times, a stalwart for democracy. And with Salas Chilima's death, of course, the Malawian constitution, with Boniface Dulani, I've written about what happens when leaders die in office. And hopefully what happens is they follow the constitution and they, have that inform the way they move. And Malawi has had a president die in office, and it was unclear whether they were going to follow the Constitution in that case, but after a couple of days, they ended up doing so. And in this case, President Lazarus Chakwera did indeed follow the letter of the Constitution, which the Constitution in Malawi's case says that when the vice president dies or resigns from office, the vacancy will be filled for the unexpired period of the term, so until the next elections in 2025, by a person appointed by the president. So the president appoints Michael Usi, who was the vice president of UTM Party. This was the party of Salas Chilima, right? This is a coalition government in Malawi where the president Lazarus Chakwera belongs to the Malawi Congress Party, and the vice president, Salas Chilima, but now the vice president, Michael Usi, are leaders in UTM Party, right? These two parties, along with some smaller parties, came together in a coalition in 2020 to challenge and oppose the then sitting government of the Democratic Progressive Party, the DPP. So the BBC headline about the new vice president in Malawi, of course, focuses on the fact that he's a comedian. And that's true. Michael Usi became popular because he was a comedian, also an actor, a playwright. He also has a PhD from the UK, where he wrote a dissertation about the youth and their capacity to change things in their country, and specifically looking at Malawi. And he, like Salas Chilima, really ran as like youth-oriented candidates. Now, this guy is like 10 years older than me, so I don't think of myself as youthful, but certainly young for many African politicians and Malawian politicians. So I'll be interested to see if Usi has any serious impact in Malawian politics. He hasn't before this. I mean, he was, like Salas Chilima, much of an outsider to politics before joining Chilima and in the UTM party, and then he's of course served as like Minister of Tourism and Culture. He's had cabinet positions in the past, but it's not clear what his influence is going to be on policy or politics. It seems like Chakwera chose someone who was definitely from the party, so he can't get chastised for, not honoring the coalition. But he also picked someone who's not really a political heavyweight, and so can, in this, we're already looking to the next elections, right? They're a little bit more than, I guess, just about a year away now. And, having picked Usi may solidify the strengths of the MCP in the run-up to next year's election.
So interesting, Kim. Like, I'm always learning from Malawi as from you. And it'll be really fascinating to see how this all unfolds, and these are really important questions of succession and process. So now for our listeners, take a listen as we learn from Ami and Fu about the LGBT law and its implications in Ghana.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you day. My name be Tamakloe, and this be the podcast within the column Ufahamu Africa. For this podcast, the matter where we talk for here just be politics for Africa. As we all know, since days some way be like that in our motherlands, in our fatherlands. Here we try to understand and really and see what's they happen. So today we can't talk something where they hear, but actually, if I get some people here where then get head, then get proper head. If you meet, and then we will talk the matter. Okay. So when I first person, I just go read them for proper English. Her name be Antoinette Boama. Antoinette Boama is a private legal practitioner from Ghana who specializes in real estate, criminal, and entertainment law. She's the managing counsel for Eden Law and Associates and serves as legal consultant to Equality Network Ghana, an NGO which champions minority rights. She graduated from University of Ghana in 2016 and was called to the Ghanaian bar in 2019. She assists in the teaching of LLM/MA Alternative Dispute Resolution at the University of Ghana School of Law. All this plenty English we say, she get head pass. So the second person be on our own Kobolo. If you don't know Kobolo, I beg, go Google who Kobolo be. One Love, the Kobolo is a Ghanaian and Romanian award-winning music producer, live performer, and creative director. Kobolo plays the guitar and koshkas and speaks Pidgin, Gachi, English, and Romanian. Kobolo is also part of the satirical duo Fucking Boys with Mensa, who are credited with creating the world's first Pidgin musical, Cause of Money. Kobolo has collaborated with acts like A Lost Men, King Aisoba, Jeduble Ambole, Sena Dagadu, Pilani Bubu, Jojo Abbott, Stevo Atimbire, and Sister Deborah. Kobolo produces and supports talents that have positive social messages, as he is a strong advocate in Ghana for human rights and is outspoken on environmental protection. Kobolo is popular for his humor, progressive views, and his down-to-earthness. He travels the world barefoot, making his memories and connections to places more intimate. The Kobolo wants freedom and justice for all. So the last person we day here, and he named the August. August says, I am a Ghanaian from Accra. I am a human rights defender and a feminist working for the sexual minorities in society to promote and protect their rights. I have an undying interest in advocating for the minorities in society due to the unfair, unequal treatment and opportunities not given to them in the community. As a Pan-African feminist who has journeyed in this space for some years now, I am passionate about challenging mentalities, challenging colonial norms, promoting gender equality, mental health, socio-economic justice, and the safety and security of all persons who have been marginalized in society within Ghana and Africa. Charlie, the people waiting day here with me, no, then be too much. I beg all of you, welcome. So, Charlie, this Becky, I know say we all make busy, so I appreciate the time where we all take for this place. The matter we did for Grand be the same problem that Sam George that people they call since 2021. Few minutes go kai when Ghana police can close one queer space where people make say you do I make queer menace can then, can't feel at home for them. No. Since that time, no, nobody rest though, Charlie, everything a pasca. We all know say the bill with the parliament, it passed that queer people go suffer. But the thing where plenty people don't know, not make sure that I say be the fact say not just be queer people where they go suffer where the bill pass. It go affect every other person. So guys, Charlie, how you guys they see the way the bill will be?
Yeah. For me, I did see what they happen around the world with this wave of homophobia from the West. And it's very scary because a few months ago, then I did read about the way the hip hop labels got re-engineered in the 80s, early 90s, because African hip hop or hip hop in America at the time was very conscious and was spreading knowledge and making African Americans patronize African products, coming to the motherland, wearing talismans, dressing in dashikis, promoting a general African consciousness. And people come together, decide, say, no, they want to make money off the impressionability of lyrics and the hip hop culture and music. So they had certain label executives sign non-disclosure agreements and offered them stocks in private prison systems and encourage them to start signing acts that will glorify violence and drug trade and all sorts of things that would land the average African American kid in the prison system where they will continue slavery by working for next to nothing. And so to see this kind of conglomerate form and be somehow successful in the world, and to know that a similar thing is happening with the right-wing fundamentalists, racist, Islamophobic, people coming from, let's say, this Texas area, Utah area, that have decided, for me, I think foremost as a business opportunity to farm like human life here in Ghana, where colonial homophobia is ripe and festering. They stoke the flames among the people and they've had the churches build prisons, and it's like they're just preparing the land, preparing the prison like a farm to just put us in there and just make money, just make money of human bodies. And so the way I look at it makes it super daunting, and it feels quite organized, which is very scary for me, that it's quite organized in the way they plan decades ahead. So that's where kind of my mind is right now. Just
August, how you see it?
So my take on the bill currently is, I look at it from a more emotional angle, looking at the fact that the kind of love that our societies used to have wouldn't be there anymore if this bill becomes law. The kind of connection, the the natural Ghanaian vibe that we all know, we like, moving around with friends, with colleagues, family members, and all of that. Even vibing around the streets, showing normal affection, wouldn't be there anymore because now it will be kind of LGBT related or like something that the bill is coming to stop. So for me, I take it more from an emotional angle and as well as a spiritual angle because looking at the spiritual aspect, we understand how nature can be dynamic, nature can be unique. But here in the case, we have a bill that legally is going to tell you who you should be. So at the end of the day, you have to do what the bill is saying you should be. According to them, that's what the Ghanaian families are. But we all know what the Ghanaian this bill is just going to put out more hate. It's going to make our normal extended families that we know they are going to become more hostile towards us. And like the usual, when we have funerals, we have engagements, and parties that we have families, coming around, or usually we have this yearly traditional celebrations that we see family members coming around. Now, when this group gets passed, it's going to it's going to bring like a border, between family members because if this is who I am, if there's an occasion where family gets to state, I can't be there because I don't want a case where someone is going to raise this after this bill has been passed and all of that. You still the wear these kind dresses, you still you braid your head and all of that. Like they kill vibe, like it brings down your morale. And I wouldn't want to be in a system. If then so during yearly gatherings by families, I won't be there because what's the use if I can't be myself? But before then, if something is unique, someone is in a sleeve, another person too is in shorts, somebody they wear, long trousers, baggy jeans and all of that. Now we can't really have that. We just have to be one way, something that has been it's like we are going to be programmed to be in a certain way, which would at the end of the day is going to kill the dynamic aspect of our culture. It's going to kill the dynamic aspect of our individual, personalities and our individual selves. This bill is just going to it will spoil everything for Ghana.
Chalet, thank you. Antoinette, how do you feel about this whole matter?
Looking at it from the legal point of view, I think the bill is too excessive and it's vague. It's vague and its application might be a bit broad. I mean, you can see where exactly they are trying to go with this, but upon a careful reading of whole bill, you see that almost everyone stands the chance of being captured under it. So to me, I just think they should have just left it where it was. If it comes to maybe trying to criminalize homosexual sex or something, they should have just left it at where our law was, because our law had already criminalized homosexual sex. But with this, it criminalizes a whole state of being. So at the point, at a part in the bill, you see that they stated holding yourself out as, and there is no explanation for that. So if someone is walking by and to you think the person is holding himself as a homosexual, you can just report the person. Or you can just the police can just arrest the person. So I think it's a bit too excessive and vague. That's what I feel about this bill. I think it should not even go to where it's going now.
Okay, thank you guys so much. Charlie, one issue where men as they talk, be say, then they say we're not the Africa. But even me, I know saying a lie. Why? 2 years ago, while I go some village, we are not going to mention the place. I go some place we went and they make soap. where I take videos and pictures. Then one woman be she dey stir something for barrel. She asked me say, you can't cut sweet go. I beg, where'd you make my husband come? Her husband come, her husband be woman. Where the kiss for camera? Till today, I no go forget. Where other menace they like, nobody bids them. Everybody they do them at things. So me, when they talk say queerness no be African, I know they grieve for them because me, I take my own two eyes, take see this thing. Where I stand talk to Professor B, in name be Unoma Azua. He did from Delta State in Nigeria. He say people no, then they call them the Omu people. Them a queen mother no. He catch time there. He go fit marry woman because culturally he reach the status of a man. So he marry man, he go left the man, go build house for him papa in house, marry woman, then live in that house where he built for him papa compound with like the woman. So he make a no say like queerness day, but me I no share that no much. So August then Kobolo, I can't throw this give you. August, I beg you go feel educate us more on the way queerness day on African culture inside.
Okay, so for the queerness, if you look at it from the African context, we see it as something that is born with. Like we have children who, do not behave exactly as they are assigned by their gender. So we have a male acting like a female and a female acting like a male, and that they can't have the Obadari and the Sogobostia. So when you look at these people, they are just like every other person because we have Obadisia who decides to get married to a man, have children. You have Sogobostia who decides to get married to a woman, have children, build a family of his own. It's all about choices. We have Obadisia in our communities who have been successful through their works of life and they do not have families. Some of them are by themselves, some of them take care of family, like maybe like you see, I get maybe my sister into these and things. Because if it takes to make I take one or two of them, because maybe I sister my sister, they get any support. In the end, we do nothing big for them. So make I take care of those kids, raise them. You see, at the end of the day, they bring that honor, that glory back to the family. He doesn't take it alone for himself. And the same happens for the Ojebisia or the effeminate man as well. It's all about choices, I would say. So looking at the fact that in terms of African spirituality, when we talk of the Konshu or the one chemo that we have the deities, the ones that a male deity can possess a female. Usually the deities we do not. Usually they say that they do not have genders. The deities they're general, depending on how the deity or the spirit gets to you, the way you would react. So I can be feminine, but then when the deity comes up or the deity starts possessing me, I start acting like a man. I do everything. Even the way I speak, my voice, everything changes. And these things are real. We see it with our naked eyes. It's not like yes, 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 no. We see it for our eyes when you go for traditional gatherings, when you go for programs where you have these people coming around. And they are community leaders. We do not see them as they are not just normal people. They are people that are respected in our communities. So coming back to the topic, if we want to say that these things do not exist, then we might as well say that these deities do not know that if I'm male, I'm supposed to possess a male. I don't have to possess a female. And when they possess you, there's nothing your family member or anyone can do about it. You can't do away with it. Some of the stories you hear when they get possessed, some of the people maybe do not get family support, so they reject those deities. You understand, but that doesn't end there. When the deity, perhaps it has been accepted, they do all the customary rites or the other things they have to do to do after they finish. Anytime the deity progress, so because of that, some people have it has changed the way they behave. Because at the end of the day, they try to portray the deity. For instance, in a family like this, the deity and the person that has been possessed becomes like the mediator. So when there's something that is going on in the family that the deity is to share it or they have to share some information, they possess that person and then the information power. So the person automatically is seen as the one who carries the deity. So consult those people for protections and for all of this. And these are people who do not discriminate against LGBT. They do not discriminate. They know when they see you, they know the kind of person you are. because they look at it from the spiritual aspect before even coming to the physical. So I think even if this bill is something that is supposed to come, I wish they come out, but then unfortunately they have supported it. But when it comes to their aspect where the deity has possessed them and they are behaving the opposite of what we know them in terms of their agendas, then yes, it is accepted. But if it is the other way around, it is not accepted. So with issues like this, it's very dicey. During my activism journey, we've had chances to engage with some of these people, and then what they show is that, well, they are not at the top, they can't really say much, because even if you stay, they usually have like council, and then decisions are taken over there before it comes out to the public. So even if I say yes, if we all say yes, and our leader says, well, we wish to say yes, but when we look at the way the community is also handling, you can't say yes. But within ourselves, within our smaller communities, yes, when we have such people, we do not bar them, we do not harm them. We allow them to be themselves. Yes, but the fairness and spirituality is, it's more than the ICs, it's more than you read in books, it's more than you search on the internet. It's dynamic. Everyone and how they tend to understand or they tend to speak on these things. But what is most important is that the fear, the fact that nobody wants to come out and say, for me, I support these people. I don't think you should harm them. That is where the political aspect also sets in, because everyone wants favor in the eyes of their communities or the societies of the country.
August, thank you so much. Kubolo, I bet you get something you want to add to this on the historical part of queerness being African.
I mean, so much research is out there, but for me, not to even like travel back in time, but just to like right now, like my father, for example, my father is a very effeminate man. He has like, he moves kind of like, I don't know if you've ever observed Prince, the musician that passed some years back. And he has this flair, the way when he sits and crosses his legs, he puts his fingers under his chin. He has all these very quote unquote feminine tendencies, right? So such a person will be considered queer, even though to me, as far as I know, my father is quote unquote a heterosexual person. And so I feel like everybody in the world or I mean, we are talking about Ghana, is queer to some kind of degree. And that can be used and weaponized in this society, especially because of poverty of our spirituality, poverty of our education, and just poverty in our stomachs. We are going through a lot as people, and the government just wants to put a weapon in everybody's hand that will just point at each other. That's like, for me, the scariest thing is that you want to put a weapon in the hands of poor people who feel disenfranchised from the system, who are feeling cheated by every aspect of society. I feel like the bigotry, the colonial homophobia is going to be charged by this act, and people are going to just become vigilantes out there. A lot of people are going to just rob people under the guise of catching queer people and so on. A lot of people are going to use it for revenge. A lot of people are going to use it out of frustration on each other, for spite. I'm imagining, like, let's say this bill is now a law. What happens to two males sitting on an Okada, like in town? Like, what are the rules now? Can you hold the person around the waist? Who says the two of you are not in some kind of relationship? Why are you two guys on one motorbike? And so on and so forth. You are musicians on tour in Ghana. And you're on a low budget. Why are you sharing one hotel room? What's going on between you? Some receptionist with an attitude, or you giving the receptionist an attitude, and the receptionist can take this kind of revenge and call the police and say you are sharing a room, they suspect queerness or whatever. So I feel like it's a very lethal weapon, that if it gets into the hands of the average Ghanaian, we're going to shoot each other and we're just going to destroy each other. That's what's going to happen. There's going to be false accusations. There's going to be useless, pointless things going on, just for us to distract ourselves from the fact that we feel powerless against the people in power who are cheating us out of our lives. And I feel like we'll become like a zombie apocalypse, just fighting each other.
Yeah, Charlie. Yeah, thank you, thank you. So you said something about, your dad being effeminate into somebody, your dad go be queer, right? Now, me and the senior colleague be the talk say queerness. People seem to make it as if say the queerness it's about the sexual act. Then they make the queerness like they hear queerness or LGBTQ, they hear sex and intercourse. But that may be what queerness be. Like queerness be anything where they deviate from the binary of heterosexuality. So everything where they in between be queerness. So you're right when you say that everybody is queer to somebody to a certain extent. Now the next question we can't go inside no Antoinette, this one they heavily be your own. So right now, no, we carry when I go to build up, we see say plenty things they inside way parliamentary repambasa like that. But I won't make it take a few of the clauses way they inside to try explain to people say then pass this bill into law. It not be just LGBTQ plus people where then go suffer. Everybody will suffer. Obi and Obeka, you know. So Antoinette, since you be the legal baron for this conversation top, I beg, I picked out a few clauses I won't make we talk last time. So clause 1, I go read clause 1, not all of it, but I'll just read a little bit of it. So clause 1 says, this act applies to a person who holds out as a way that they talk lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, transsexual, ally, no, be the ally part, that part I want make people focus on. So I beg, you go fee expatiate on clause 1 for us.
So with the ally, here, I think it's not the ally that we all know, because when you go to section 19, where the interpretation is, it specifically define the ally they are referring to. And when you read that definition of ally, they define an ally as a person who produces, procures, markets, broadcasts, disseminates, publishes, or distributes a material with the intent to promote an activity prohibited under this act, evoke the interest of a child in an activity prohibited under the act, teach a child to explore a gender other than the binary category of male or female. So they limit a bit from maybe someone who just sympathizes or someone who empathizes with a queer or a homosexual. I mean, they limit it to people who actively promote LGBT plus activities. So if initially what we were talking about was that they should take the ally out, because an ally could just be someone who empathizes or supports you. But now they are saying that what they want the ally to mean is someone who procures, produces, markets, broadcasts, disseminates, publishes or distributes materials with intent to promote LGBT activities or evoke the interest of a child in an activity prohibited under the act, or teach a child to explore a gender other than the binary category of male or female. With this to maybe even teach it. Maybe if there are social studies, if they produce they write books and they are teaching about maybe gender, and they are teaching about gender and sexuality, and the teacher teaches that topic, the teacher is automatically captured under this. Understand? That's why we keep saying that this bill is dangerous, because it's vague. It's not specific. It doesn't specifically point to specific things. There are some things that you unintentionally do which makes you fall within it.
I was wondering, like, if I have a T-shirt on which says I support queer rights, and this bill is now law, and I go and stand at the police station and I'm wearing this shirt, I guess that qualifies as some kind of distribution or broadcasting of something that will make someone investigate, right? And so it blows my mind that I will be arrested for wearing a T-shirt. And if I wore another T-shirt that said, I am an armed robber, let's say, because that's what we hear all the time. I'm wearing a T-shirt that says I'm an armed robber. Like, they're going to laugh at that and say, oh, it's freedom of speech. You can say what you want. but I can't say I support queer rights. And I think that we don't know that. I mean, just a few months ago, I was at the Asiedu, the 99-year group went to do their donation to the school in Cape Coast. And there was a group of old students. No, actually, yeah, from a group of the guys that were walking by. And one of them was like, why you follow us go somewhere? You be gay. And he was like, yeah, I be gay. Left me alone. Like, he was just, we can't tell if he really is gay or not, but he responded in that way. And it's like, we don't realize that we won't be able to make these kind of jokes, without being in some kind of trouble, in a position where we have to pay a bribe to get out of some kind of trouble. We don't know that things that we just say in our daily lives it's going to put us and this is not it's not just for the queer community, this is for every single Ghanaian. Like, if somebody wants to catch you for something and you are telling your fellow, like two women telling each other, oh, who me feel or something, somebody says, hey, I didn't move, yeah, we. Like, I mean, what is the straw that tips something over into a criminal case? And it just depends on who is there and what kind of mood they are in, what intentions they have, what level of poverty or depravity is within their system. For me, they're like the possibilities, maybe because I have a wicked mind, so I think wickedly, but I feel like this can be abused in so many ways on each Ghanaian, like on ourselves, not necessarily on queer people.
Okay. Antoinette, back to you. I'll be this part of the conversation there, be me and you. So I know say now this one day the old bill where I think they move them around the duty to report, I beg you if you explain duty to report, to everybody.
It's a person who has knowledge that an offense is committed under this act shall report the commission of the offense to a police officer, or in the absence of a police officer, to a relevant authority of the community in which the offense is committed. A relevant authority whom a report is made under subsection 1 shall within 3 days of report ensure that the report is lodged at the nearest police station. This is just a duty to report a crime which is imposed on every citizen in the country. But with this, they didn't add any punishment for not reporting. You understand? But there is another section where if you are aware that your property is being used by anyone for the commissioning of an offense in this bill, I think you are liable to punishment. Let me check. A person who gives a movable asset, a room, a house, or any other asset for purposes of sexual activity prohibited under this act commits a misdemeanor and is liable on summary conviction to a term of imprisonment not less than 3 years and not more than 6 years. So with this, even hotel owners and guest house, as Kubalo said, if you go to a guest house, they can see that you and maybe a friend are in the room. Reading this together with the duty to report, they have a duty to actually report you. Because if they don't report you, they are liable to a term of imprisonment of not more than 3 years.
So make I understand this. So go fit be roommates. One girl no go fit be roommates with another girl. One boy no go fit be roommates with another boy.
I mean, they can, but if they suspect that it's happening, they have to go and report. And that's where the false accusations come. Because we know in Ghana, when you are falsely accused of an offense, it doesn't necessarily end at the police station. They can even process you for court. You go to court for over a year, 2 years. Sometimes you can even be on remand for a year, 2 years, 3 years before the case is even heard and it comes to light that, oh, you were just falsely accused. You understand? This act is a very dangerous act. When you say people think, oh, false accusations are normal because even as things are, people are accused falsely all the time. But this is different because your state of being is being criminalized. And anyone who suspects that you are that can report you and has the duty to report you. And how do you determine whether someone is homosexual or not? How do you determine that? They didn't state any method of determining that in the bill. So everyone can use their discretion. And it's going to be very problematic for effeminate men and masculine presenting women. Because now, even before a landlord rents out their property to you, they have to check you and see whether you are going to be doing any of these acts in his house. Because if he rents the place out to you, knowing very well that you are going to use their house to do any of these acts, he's also liable. They can come and arrest him. Not He'll be in prison for not more than 6 years, not less than 3 years.
For renting apartments, you go to someone.
Yes.
August Kobolo, do you have to add to this?
Oh no, I thought the landlord one was 10 years, bro. I think so. That means you have reduced the time. I know one of them was up to 10 years, and it's wild that imagine, like, I mean, me, I'm always thinking of extra scenarios that are probably like, imagine you are a bitter tenant who got kicked out by some landlord, not to anything, maybe you were just a bad tenant, and then now you want to get a landlord back, and you report the landlord to the police that there are some queer people staying at their place and that they haven't evicted or reported the people. Like something like that. If the police follows up on this tip and comes to this landlord's premises, they don't know that the landlord is being falsely accused for some BS or whatever. And they'll look and manage to see someone and suspect that this is the queer person and then go to a landlord and arrest them for keeping, like, what kind, like, I feel like it's such a malleable weapon. Because for me, if this thing passes, the first thing I'll do before, if I have to run from the country, I would just accuse Sam George and all these different people. I go talk to you guys, saw you be gay, me and you sleep before. So now let's go investigate our bosses and everything together. Me, that's what the first thing I'll do. I'll accuse like 5 back bin. Say he kissed me once somewhere. I'll create all these things for them. And now we'll all be there together.
August, do you have anything to add to this?
Well, I don't really have much. Just that restriction of maybe 2 males or 2 females renting a place or renting a guest house would be difficult now. It's going to be difficult. So here comes the case. So maybe if I have a daughter, or maybe I born early, so maybe if you see me, then my daughter wanna hide like almost the same. You will still say she's my girl or what. So you're not going to rent the house for us. But maybe when you go to the family background, you know that maybe I born because of maybe bad girls or maybe because of where I go back. So the girl you speak to me, but you my daughter. So it was first children. Yeah.
Okay, so the next clause I won't make we tackle, no, that one be my personal favorite because the nonsense way they did, no. So this be clause number 4, 2, and 3. A person who commits an offense under paragraph A, B, C, D, blah, 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 can be imprisoned for not less than 2 months and not more than 3 years or both. For the purpose of this section, sexual intercourse occurs where a person, A, penetrates the anus or mouth of another person with the penis of that person or with a device, or B, by use of any object or device, penetrates or stimulates the vagina or anus of another person, or C, by use of the penis of the person or any other object or device, penetrates the anus, mouth, or vagina or other bodily openings of an animal. And D, allows penetration of the anus, mouth, vagina, or other bodily openings of that person by an animal for sexual gratification. In short, what it is saying over here is that a person commits an offense if they engage in sexual intercourse with a person of the same sex, sexual intercourse with an animal, or pansexual activity. What is even pansexual activity? So I beg. This part, I don't know what say because how is anybody supposed to know what they happen for somebody bedroom inside? Mama lawyer, I beg, please help me understand.
That's why we keep saying that this bill breaches a lot of fundamental human rights, including the right to privacy, freedom of speech, expression, even freedom of association, media freedom. Like they all don't think they are part, but they are all part. Yet, because, as she said, before they find out you are doing this, they have to enter your room. And that's a breach of your freedom of speech. So how they are going to enforce this, no, we don't know. We don't know how they are going to enforce this. Do you understand? That's why a lot of lawyers have stood up against this bill, because it has a lot of constitutional breach. How would they know that you had your anus penetrated this morning? Unless someone reports you, they take you to the hospital and check. And that method has already been declared inhumane, okay? Because you can't take someone to the hospital and say, because God says we should check your anus and see if someone has penetrated you in the last 12 hours. Your dignity, everything So yeah, I think this question you have to ask some judge, because me personally, I don't know how they are going to enforce this, and that's where the police comes in, because when they report them, they are going to take money from it. They are just going to enrich themselves, because there's no way that they are going to do this. There's no way.
So another part where they get me be the penetration with another device. So over here now they see say it is attack sex toys. It attack sex toys. Like so they just they just want to make people do missionary, doggy, cowgirl, reverse cowgirl, and then that's it.
Mm-hmm. They want no. You see, they intentionally stress on the same sex, so you can't have with the existing law. They didn't talk about gender. They just said penile penetration of the anus. That's a natural canal knowledge. So even if you have anal sex with your wife, that was a crime. That is still a crime under our criminal offences act. But with this, they are stressing on the same sex. So using a sex toy on someone, a person of the same gender, that is the crime. If you use a sex toy on someone of the opposite gender, that doesn't qualify. Do you understand? So they are trying to capture all sexual activities that are not heterosexual.
But then so they cannot be having anal sex. And you know, as people, or some of us who constantly explore like the theories of surrounding pleasure, especially female pleasure, or just like non-heteronormative ways of accessing pleasure. You know, people find a lot of pleasure in anal stimulation. So are they now going to say even with heterosexuals, anal stimulation is a no-go?
No, they are not saying that. They intend, you see, when this bill was in Parliament, I think Ursula or one of the MPs, she spoke about the sex toys extensively. That if they are trying to ban the use of sex toys, then all heterosexuals who use sex toys, or all those who give each other head, are going to fall under this act. So here they inserted same sex. So when you read the particular section, they've intentionally added same sex to everything. So you can use sex toys, but not on another person of the same sex. You can use it on yourself. You can't use it on someone of the same sex. That's it.
But it talks about pansexual activity. I don't understand pansexual activity. What is pansexual activity?
But the whole thing, I mean, I don't know if you were joking about, you don't know what, I mean, you're asking about the pansexual aspect, but I think, I mean, to the best of my knowledge, pansexuals are people that move somehow across the spectrum freely. I think so.
Yes, that's my understanding of pansexual too. But within this context, I was wondering what they mean by pansexual activity.
Yeah, they did not define it. They did not define it in the act. So anything goes, I guess. Because now, anyhow you understand pansexuality applies. That's what you're saying. It's too broad and vague.
So I just want to gather us in the prison, that's all, and then get some money. Yeah, it's an investment. It's an investment that they've done for decades now, Charlie. They're coming to harvest. That's all that's going on.
So the last clause that I want us to talk about was how they call this thing. I won't use their own word. Prohibition of gross indecency. They say a person who publicly and willfully does a grossly indecent act commits a misdemeanor and is liable on summary conviction to a term of imprisonment of no less than 6 months and not more than 1 year. And for purpose of this section, grossly indecent acts means public show of romantic relations between or among persons of the same sex, public show of romantic relations between or among persons where one or more of the persons have undergone gender or sex reassignment, or intentional cross-dressing to portray that the person is of a gender different from the gender at birth, with intent to engage in an act prohibited under this act. Whew, my mouth all they pay me. So before, no, not the way they enlist this gross indecency thing, say, you know, go fi show public affection to someone of the same act. So I think where I look at that old bill and I'm like, so you know, go fi tell your bro Charlie, I love you anymore. Your sis, your Charlie, I love you. You know, go fi hug your sis for public instance, because those are also ways of showing like affection. So I see, say, in this new iteration, then change them to specifically romantic affection. Mama lawyer, over to you.
Yes, that's what they've done, and they've they've added the cross-dressing part to romantic relations, yes. And they've added the cross-dressing part. The cross-dressing part, as I said, my biggest problem in all this is how the police is going to abuse it. Because the other time I was talking about it and someone said, even without the act, people are falsely accused all the time. But then when you watch all these comedians on TV who cross-dress, like all these guys who wear cabaret and dresses for their comedy, anyone can just go to the police and report them. And they have to be arrested. They have to be arrested and investigated. And the intent to engage, intent can only be proved during trial. The police cannot look at you and say, okay, there was no intent. Intent is a state of mind that can be proved only through trial. So definitely, if you are arrested and you don't bribe them, as you usually have, they take you to court. You go to trial. You stand trial for a year or two before your lawyer is able to prove that, oh, you just dressed that way for your work. You would have wasted time, wasted money, wasted your life. This how can someone dressing a different type of way make be grossly indecent? It doesn't make sense.
August, you want to add to that?
Yeah. The gross indecency, to me, when I look at the definition in the bill, it's not very clear to me. It still doesn't really lay out or be specific to what they really mean. I felt like because they have sponsorship to put all of those laws, they just decided to include things that are not really a reality within our communities. They're trying to make it like, this, the way the military, the rules, it's always about them. So they were trying to do something like when the bill becomes law, everybody will have to go according to it, whether you like it or not. So they try to do certain things that, to me, I don't feel like it makes sense. Because when you look at this gross indecency, you have people who are making livelihood out of it. Now TikTok, Instagram, Reels, they're all over the place. People watch them for entertainment. People are getting paid, for doing videos, for their target audience. So if you want to criminalize trafficking in Ghana, I don't know how far we want to get with the bill. And sadly, our people are not helping, especially our leaders, especially the local community leaders. They are not helping.
Obolo, you get anything you want to add for this?
Charlie. Yeah, I just think of like the average Ghanaian guy who, like, when you do a Snapchat, then you put some filter to make their lips a bit more pink. I mean, if I start reporting them one by one, they'll say that I'm a bad person. Like how should we sit down and allow the government to tell us that we can't use any Snapchat filter we want, that we can't dress how we feel like dressing, that we can't say what we feel like saying, and we think that it's okay that a certain group of full Ghanaians are going to have these rights taken away, and that we there to affect us some. Like, Charlie, it's one of the most painful things in my life to know that we've reached such a point in the world where Ghana should be with South Africa holding hands, talking, on behalf of Gaza, behalf of Haiti, Congo. Ghana, after being the first independent country in this part of the world, should be leading the world, should be having rich cocoa farmers, should be having schools, roads, hospitals, everything. People should be coming here for cheap housing, good food, lifestyle. Things should just be going on, no potholes. But this is where we are. We want to rather enter people's anuses. We just want to live inside the anus of our neighbors instead of lifting each other up. It's just, for me, it's just a very, very disgraceful part of my existence. And and the scary thing is the parallel between what is happening in, in the Middle East and the parallel of what's happening on the campuses in America. Like, we have everybody's fighting against a very blatant wrong. And yet the people fighting against the blatant wrong are framed as the evildoers. It's such an upside down time now in this reality that is really baffling my brain. Like, I don't know how we're going to come out on the other side of the rainbow.
Oh Lord. And to even add to that, say for some cultures inside, kissing in public is a way of greeting. So if you are from such a culture and you find yourself in Ghana, right, your way of showing affection or greeting your friend automatically becomes criminalized, because kissing not just the cheeks, kissing on the lips too is a form of greeting in certain cultures. So imagine traveling from your country and coming to Ghana because you heard about Dirty December, and you are here and you meet your friend, and your friend who may have lived in your country for a few years, so they're familiar with the norm, and they either kiss you on the cheek or on the lip, then no jail time.
I mean, you see what this evil has working for it is the poverty. If the average Ghanaian did not want for anything and didn't feel like impressed by ministers showing off the tax money back to them in the form of land cruisers and houses and whatever have you, and people are just getting on with their lives. If this law, I mean, people don't even have time for this kind of thing, but this is what it is. It's designed. I feel like it's a design. Like, people have been using this tactic all over the world, just fear mongering and populism, and under educating the masses and giving them cheap entertainment and talking about trivial issues in the media. And look how the media is now for sale, has sided with the government. The media has sided with the religions, and it's super homophobic. And these people have seen that this is the perfect conditions to plant these kind of bills to, again, I mean, for media, I just see it's just not human farming. This is nothing to do with religion, spirituality, morality. These churches are investing money in this hate to reap profits from the prison industrial complex. That's all it is. And I don't know how we can stop it, but we can't stop.
Actually, that leads me to the next question, which is a little bit on the hopeful side. I don't know if you guys hear of some guy be, no be woman, no guy be, name be Texas Kadiu Moro. You guys hear of him?
Yeah, the guy who...
Yes, that guy will do demonstration. And Chale, it really give us hope, especially for country where, be very patriarchal, where a lot of shame, they around certain things. In Waka, the streets half naked, holding sign, they call the leaders hypocrites. Now, the thing where they pay me for that to be say, how media they cover the homophobia, no? Media no should that cover in protest, not like that. The signs he hold a biblical verse, he hold Quranic verse, where both of them they shame people, then they call essentially they call the country and the government hypocrites. Because you say you want criminalize or being LGBTQ, being queer, be sin, but you all they fornicate and commit adultery. That be a point of reference, right? So if doing what is considered the sin is the basis for the creation of this law in the hopes of maintaining proper family values, then everybody is sinning, which means everybody should be arrested.
Kadir Moro, he did something super brave and super pragmatic, because I feel they were saying also that they're not really in support of other sexualities or whatever. He's still a he presented as heterosexual, and that, but the hypocrisy is if you are following this as something sinful to a religion, a major religion in Ghana. But then when you say, then, there's also verses in the Bible that say to kill your child if they are disobedient. And they're like, no, we are not literally taking it from the Bible. It's part of African old culture, something. I mean, you go to the African culture and show them that over here too, there's evidence that existed before. No. Because at the end of the day, they are just selling us off. They're about to put us on these ships and sail us off to go and work on plantations. And so whatever we say makes no sense to them. The same way that the world is telling Israel that genocide is being committed, and they are saying they are denying it. It's the same way these people are denying that they want to genocide Ghanaians, a section of the Ghanaian population. So I'm sorry, but I don't see, the hope in proving their hypocrisy. I feel like it makes them just double down. They just chew their kebabs louder, smack their lips harder, chew their pizzas and the rest, and just block out all what they feel is noise coming from us. Like, they're just going to get this contract. That's how I feel like they're moving.
But the reason why I talk a little bit about the optimistic part, now it's a very long shot, is second, be queer man where you carry plaque, waka for in boxes inside, from Obra Sports to Kwame Nkrumah Circle, go Independence Square. It be heterosexual man where you wear boxes, don't chalote say where you do this thing. That be why I they say like a little bit of focus. You see, if you check like say in the forefront of this fight, it's been primarily queer people, then women. The person will be queer cry, it be woman. So I guess this be the first time where like, and then there's you, artist, but like somebody where be artist, where be woman, where be queer, where it be just regular heterosexual man, he wear boxer shorts, can't walk up for road. I think that'd be the thing we make her talk about.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. And there are so many Ghanaians, like I heard in the north they were taking some polls, and half to more than half were not in support of this bill when things were explained to them, And so the average Ghanaian is not wicked. Wickedness just comes from the depravity of poverty. It's like people just start feeling like they're getting the short end of the stick, so then and people start getting mean-spirited just because of going through a very hard life, And so there is that, there is that hope of the humanity of the Ghanaian, prevailing, but the politics are so the politics are insane, like look at what's happened look what's happened politically with these MPs threatening judges and then suing the president and doing this and like all these kind of tactics. Like they will never spend a quarter of this energy in fixing the Tamakloe way or in finishing some hospital projects. I've never ever in my life seen any politicians come together and fight so hard for something so wicked. And to just see that they are able to do that and to prove to Ghanaians, many Ghanaians say they fit do the work, but look what they take the Makapa do. So we speak of the people who sold us out, and these are the people who sold us to the foreigners. These are the people, the same people.
Antoinette, August, I beg, you get something to talk about the Texas one-man protest where you do, no?
Well, for me, I think it takes braveness because looking at the fact that he was alone, I don't know if he had other people supporting from the back door, from behind, but I think the step he took was as at the time of the introduction of the bill, and then the fact that even Parliament had passed it, awaiting the assignment of the president. He really did a risky thing for the fact that he loved his country and he wants us to go or to get to that step where if the bill get passed, things will change. And also the fact that he tried to put in or raise concerns concerning education and other morals which the society feel like it's normal for you to do this kind of thing. So far as you're doing it with the opposite sex. But if it's with the same sex, then there's a problem. I really admire his stand. Honestly, I don't know if and he had support from other like human rights activists or maybe some government officials or even international partners or whatsoever, because there was no mention of that whatsoever in the post that I read online, even from news outlets and all of that. He has done well, and we hope that he's remembered for this great move.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing about the media also still baffles me. So, I know they say how this person go fit do something like this where we not go hear for major news channels, But then also it kind of speaks to the way when our media houses and everything, how it be very political. Antoinette, I beg you get one last thing about how this act might have legal like what it means from a legal standpoint. Okay, I think we might have lost Antoinette for a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up now. So I beg all of you, thank you so, so much. Now, if you get last thing you won't make average Ghanaian pick from this conversation, I'm waiting go be Kobolo.
Charlie. Like, I just feel like a lot of us, really know the exercise of like putting ourselves in other people's shoes or no shoes or positions or situations. And we should really, practice that as much as possible if we want to attain a level of, like dignified humanity. We need to try and understand what people are feeling, going through, and just try and move in the direction of freedom and justice. So I just hope a lot of us get brave and resist and share love and just express themselves truly.
Thank you. I beg August, you get anything you want to add?
So one thing I'll add is that Ghanaians should start showing a sign of bravery. Like we shouldn't always, we are the type that like to say, me them one thing and kind of a people. But if we said that way, our leaders are going to take us through a very bumpy journey, a journey that we wouldn't even wish or we wouldn't want our unborn children to come in. So they need to start asking questions. The regular Ghanaians need to start asking questions in any language that they feel comfortable speaking in. And we also have to know that the typical Ghanaian society promotes love. We need to love one another regardless. Thank you.
Thank you so, so much. We lost Antoinette somewhere along the line, but I am sure she would concur with all that you ministers talk. So thank you so much. So average Ghanaian, I beg, it catch your party and then it catch you too. So they say the bill I say, just ask somebody where they say, make it explain, give you so you go see how this thing fuck up. So you gonna say it no be like it'll be something where we got to support as a country, because this bill then pass it go tear one ourselves, like it go just bring separation for one body. So I beg, I take God beg all of us. You get time, just go see what's in the right for the bill inside and see how that thing will cause problems, not just for queer people, but for everybody way they around and the whole country. At the end of the person's way then they enjoy, be us, so it be the ministers, the person's way then they parliaments and they pass the bill. Be us. So I beg, average Ghanaian, I beg, let love win. Thank you all for joining us on this episode, and we will see you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ufahamu Africa. You can find more episodes, show notes, and transcripts on our website, ufahamuafrica.com. This podcast is produced and managed by Megan DeMint, with help from production assistants Chukwu Fananya Ikechukwu, Alex Kozak, Harry Stoltz, and Michere Muguero. Our non-resident podcast fellows are Ami Tamakloe, Fu Asiedu, Exidi Olugu, Basil Ibrahim, and Hopalong Botul Kane. We are generously supported by the Carnegie Corporation of New York and receive research assistance from Cornell University and the University of California, Riverside. Our music is courtesy of Kevin McLeod. Until next week, Safiri Salama.